You know, honey, sometimes it seems like that all we ever talk about are the challenges that come along with blended family life.
Sure does.
And that's a big part of why we're here, right? We're here to help step couples strategize and work through the hard stuff, all these challenges that come along. But today I'm super excited because we're going to shift our focus just a bit and highlight some of the positive things about living in a blended family.
I love that.
And there are some. Now, if you listen to last week's episode about navigating a successful holiday season, you'll remember that our final tip there was to focus on gratitude.
Yeah.
An attitude of gratitude can really help you to stay in that mindset of imperfect progress, right?
That's
Everything's not going to be exactly the way you want.
That's right.
So,
and, I'll say going right now as we release this episode, we're going right into Thanksgiving. So if you're in the U.S., you're about to be celebrating everything about giving thanks and gratitude. So what a perfect time to talk about this.
Yeah, and even when things don't go as we'd hoped, which we can expect that, we can still choose to focus on the positive things. Even if they're small and insignificant, believe me, they're still wins that we can be grateful for. We need to hold on to those things.
Yeah.
And some of these things that we're going to talk about today, it's exciting because they can actually become your family's super strength.
That's right. Welcome to the Blended Family Coaching Show, where you'll discover how to move your step family from just surviving to truly thriving.
Grab your headphones and listen in as we share practical, real-life strategies for building healthy bonds,
Understanding the kids' perspective,
romance and partnership,
parenting with great teamwork.
and yes, even co-parenting with a difficult ex.
We're Mike and Kim Anderson, and we believe with the right tools, every step couple can overcome the common challenges of step family life.
Join us for authentic and sometimes comical conversations to discover how you can lead your family with confidence and create the future you really want. Honey, why don't we kick off with you just sharing a little bit about your experiences living in a blended family, because you've really never known anything except blended family life.
That's really true. So you want my life story. So this is going to be like a 4-hour episode. No.
The shortened version.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you're right. I mean, I've never known not living in a blended family because I was actually born into a blended family. Mom already had 2 kids when before she met my dad. They married and had me. And then Mom passed away when I was about a year old. And then Dad remarried about 6-7 years later. And my stepmom brought a couple kids of her own. And so I've always lived in a step family. Now, fast forward that. And, you and I meet, and you already have a child, and I'm falling in love with you. I'm falling in love with Annika, and I'm also scared to death. But our marriage formed a blended family as well.
Yep.
And so really from every angle, as a stepchild, a step sibling, and now for the last 19 years, almost being a step parent, I really do know what it is to live in a blended family, and I know the struggles that come with that. But what I've also discovered, especially over the last 19 years of our marriage, is we've really worked hard at not only making sure our family's healthy, but also investing in other families along the way. I started to see some really awesome benefits, what you just called the super strengths that can actually be developed out of a very complicated, chaotic, crazy, and very beautiful blended family dynamic. So it's kind of a cool privilege to get on the other end of this and see the strong character things that can emerge out of what feels so much like chaos.
Yeah, they're there. And that's what we're going to talk about. So we're going to explore these super strengths today. And we're hoping that you can hold on to these positive things and maintain that gratitude throughout the holiday season, keeping your attitude focused on what you have to be thankful for, even in the midst of the chaos and the disappointment that will come. So we'll start out just by refreshing your memory around these words of wisdom from those great step family gurus, the Rolling Stones.
Oh, yes, Mick Jagger.
Yes.
I got moves like him.
Yep. When they sing these famous words, You can't always get what you want. Oh, these words reflect the reality of every blended family home.
That's right.
There will be many things that everyone wants, but they will never get. That's just the reality. But this is also an undeniable truth for all of life, right? Regardless of your family structure, because life is full of disappointment. We don't always get what we want.
That's right.
That's just reality. So I love this quote from Rose Tremaine, and it really sums this up. It says, acceptance is the harshest lesson life teaches and one of the most important to learn. Acceptance.
Really good. That's a great quote.
We're not going to get what we want.
Not always going to get what you want. And at some point, we all have to learn acceptance. That's our first super strength for step families is acceptance. You know, blended family life is a great classroom.
It really is.
Blending families have to tolerate a lot of different things. We got to tolerate annoying habits of the new people that enter into our home, right? Into our lives. We got to endure the unwarranted bad attitudes that come along sometimes and the resistance to blending that we experience. And it's not always just about the people either, right? Kids have to accept that mom and dad aren't getting back together, right? That's a situation and a dynamic that has to be accepted. They're going to be moving between two homes. Often that is unavoidable. There has to be some acceptance around that. There's rules and there's expectations that are different in mom's house than there are in dad's house. And that can be hard to navigate, but we have to accept that because it's probably not going to change. And of course, as the adults, we have to accept the fact that the other home influences our kids, right? So a lot of it is related to people, but it's not just about individual attitudes and adjustments that have to be made, but simply the dynamics of living in a blended family require a lot of acceptance. We all have to accept change, and the reality is that things will never be the same as they were before. And that's hard, right? Acceptance is not easy, but over time, most family members begin to learn how to make the best of a situation that isn't perfect, or certainly not one that they asked for, right? And our kids are going to face all kinds of disappointments, hard knocks, all of that throughout their whole life, whether it be at school, maybe in a job, with a boss. There's all kinds of disappointments and things that aren't going to go their way. And we already know that as adults because we've lived longer than they have, right? And so we've been forced already to accept some things that maybe we didn't want. So even though it's hard, learning the art of acceptance is really a valuable life lesson for the kids. It's a super strength that's going to serve them well as they head into college and out into the real world. They're going to run into annoying people. They're going to run into bad attitudes. They're going to run into some situations that they just can't control or change. And they're going to have to learn how to accept that and keep moving forward. They're just not always going to get what they want.
Yep. That's the reality of life.
That's about all you can say, right? Yep.
Acceptance is not easy, but acceptance a blended family is a great place to learn acceptance. Now we're seeing this play out even now in Annika's life, my daughter's life. She's 24, and I remember when we first started our step-family journey, honey, when she was 5, she was a pretty demanding kid and really self-focused, like
one way to put it.
Like most 5-year-olds. And just in general, kids are pretty self-focused, right? The world revolves around them. And, they always have to have their way. They want everything their way. But as we started to blend, we realized that it was impossible for her to always get her way.
Sure.
Right? That's just the reality of life, like we just talked about. Over the years, we've seen her learn to accept things that are less than ideal in her life. She's had to do that. Now that she's an adult, and every once in a while, we get to watch her process disappointments, right? Because they're coming at her. She's experiencing that now, and it's just amazing to see how quickly she can accept things, accept reality and situations, and move on. She doesn't get stuck. Her college experience hasn't been exactly what she had hoped for. It's not as fun. It's not going as quickly as she would like. She's been working on her relationship with her dad and accepting that she can't change him,
Yeah.
and that things aren't exactly what she would like there. She's accepting that she has to work hard to achieve her goals in life. It's not coming easy. And she's accepting that she has to budget her own money to be successful. That's a hard one for kids.
Yeah.
But she's learned this art of acceptance through her experience growing up in a blended family.
Yeah. And she certainly hasn't always been that way. In fact, really over the last couple of years, we're seeing a lot more come to fruition now that, she is growing and she's learning. Oh yeah, that all that stuff I had to accept earlier in life is, I need to remember that, because that art of acceptance just isn't changing. And so you see Annika and the rest of us in our blended family, all 5 of us, have started to learn how to focus on the rest of what those gurus, the Rolling Stones, say. That yes, they say you can't always get what you want. And then they follow that up with, but if you try sometimes, you might find you get what you need. Yeah. You want me to sing that?
No.
Oh,
please don't.
You see, our kids they need to learn acceptance. And they also need to find out that as they learn acceptance of those things that maybe are feelings of disappointment and whatnot, that ultimately they're still going to get what they need. They're still going to be able to move forward. And acceptance really helps that. And so we've got to help them to learn this value of acceptance through our blended family experience to give them this super strength.
Yep. And it is a super strength.
That's right. Now, the Stones talk about, you might find you get what you need. I think our next super strength actually is tied to that. We're so excited to let you know about something brand new we've created just for you.
We've realized that with so many episodes available here on the show, it might feel a bit overwhelming to find the topics that matter most to you. That's why we've created a simple tool for you to receive a personalized playlist focused on your current struggle or your biggest challenge.
That's right. It's called the Blended Family Breakthrough Quiz. You'll answer just a few questions, and based on your responses, we'll email you a curated custom playlist of episodes that are specific to you.
This simple quiz will direct you to the most impactful episodes that pertain to you personally and keep you on track in your journey of discovery, learning, and growth. So, scroll all the way to the bottom of the show notes for this episode and click the link to take the Blended Family Breakthrough Quiz today.
Okay, let's get back to the discussion.
Yeah, let's talk about the next super strength, and that's resilience. Those of us living in a blended family experience lots of challenges that other families really don't have to face. We have challenges when it comes to building bonds in our step relationships and co-parenting with an ex. We struggle with kids acting out or isolating because of these losses and these hurts that they're carrying around. And we ourselves, we experience lots of troubling emotions. We have to deal with grief. And, sometimes adults in step families tend to take this approach of, well, just get over it, right? Yeah. When these challenges or problems come up, just get over it. Just move on.
That's a problem?
It is.
Yes, it is.
That creates more problems, actually.
Yep.
But step couples who choose to approach problems from a different angle with this approach of let's get through it together, this gives their blended family the gift of resilience. What
a huge difference.
Oh, yeah.
You just get over it versus let's get through it.
Yeah, and let's work together. It also builds our closeness. So over the years, we've really discovered that every time we've had to face a problem and put in some effort to get each family member through it rather than over it, we build resilience. It's a super strength. Every success and every failure becomes a lesson that actually prepares us for that next challenge. It gives us
confidence.
Confidence, that's the word. It gives us the confidence we need to face that next obstacle, that next challenge. And the more we faced, the speedier we've gotten at recovering. And that's what resilience is. I love this definition of resilience. Listen to this. the speedy recovery from problems.
It's that simple, isn't it?
Yeah. Resilience really is a valuable life skill.
Yeah, and kids are going to need it in all different kinds of
yeah.
areas. When we were talking about this episode and we were thinking about resilience and how has that played out in different areas of life, I really thought about our mutual daughter, Phoebe. So if you don't know our story already, we have two mutual children as well. They're both, one's 16, one's 15. And Phoebe, our 16-year-old, recently got recognized as the Youth of the Year at our local Boys and Girls Club. So she had to write this and deliver this speech.
Yeah.
And we've had to listen to it a couple of times.
Yeah, it's humbling.
It's very humbling because at the very beginning of her speech, she talked about some of the big, big challenges that we faced. And mostly those challenges came as a result of our blended family dynamics. When she was much younger, we had a huge season of conflict and turmoil. Again, if you don't know our story, it was only about 10 years ago where we thought we might end up in divorce. And she was kind of caught in the middle of all that, just as about a 4, 5, 6-year-old child.
Yeah.
And so it's neither of us can keep from crying as we listen to this speech because we know how tough that stage was. But as she keeps talking, she transitions into moving through that challenging time. Not only us as the leaders, but her and what it was like for her to move through that challenging time, to get to the other side, and some of the things that it took for her to get there, and some of the lessons she's learned along the way.
Yeah.
Talk about resilience, like from a very young age. She recognized the challenges, and then she recognized that she can get through them. And now we're watching her face other challenges as she's doing what's called a Running Start program in school. That's taking her into college already as a junior. And there's some challenges that come with that, but she's very resilient. She doesn't sweat the small stuff.
Yeah,
she doesn't get stuck there, right? She has a bad day here and there, right? But it doesn't totally drag her down, and she gets more confidence the more she continues to tackle. And I know after watching her grow over the last 16 years that a lot of the challenges that our families had to work through because of our blended family dynamics has really helped Phoebe become the resilient person that she's continuing to become because of what she's witnessed and what she's had to experience, because it's not been easy. It's been tough. Like you said at the very beginning of the episode, we want so badly to shield her from it. And I remember discussions around how are we going to help the young kids just not be totally overcome by this. But you know what? Letting them experience it and letting them walk through it and then recover from it, that's building resilience.
Yeah. Yeah, and we all know adults that aren't very resilient.
Yeah.
Things come their way and it just takes them out and they cannot recover and they just flounder, and it's really difficult to watch adults that don't have this character trait of resilience. So in our blended families, this is an amazing skill that they're learning.
That's right.
Because the truth is our kids and us, we're all going to face problems in life. We're going to have relational issues, emotional stuff coming up, social, vocational problems. And we'll all need to work through them.
Yeah.
So the resilience that you're building in your kids today is going to keep them on track. And it's going to give them that ability to bounce back, that speedy recovery.
Yeah. They're going to learn that, right?
Yeah, and this is a super strength that's going to serve them well as they move into their futures.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So we've got this super strength of acceptance. We've got a super strength of resilience. And also, as we keep reflecting on this, another super strength that comes as a result of blended family life is simply flexibility.
Oh, yeah.
Learning flexibility. This one, in some ways, I hate.
Right? It's not so good at this one.
It's been said that, the most successful people are those who accept and adapt to constant change. And this adaptability requires a degree of flexibility and humility that most people can't manage. Like flexibility can be really challenging, especially when you think of it in that way.
Yeah. Again, you've met people that can't handle change. One little change comes along and they just fall apart.
Yeah. Blending or forming a blended family it seems to be this ever-changing existence where it's constantly changing. We've got kids moving back and forth between two separate households, different values, different expectations. And kids have to quickly learn often what it means to be flexible. And managing the daily life of most blended families can be summed up in one word: chaotic, right? Plans are made and then they have to change due to some dynamic that usually is out of our control. As the adults, we have to become skilled at adaptation. We get creative. We explore kind of out of the box solutions, and we have to keep moving forward. And kids get a front row seat to learning how to go with the flow when they're growing up in a blended family quite often. And that flexibility helps them to become better thinkers, better responders. They maybe become better problem solvers. And, they just have to flex when things don't go as expected.
They learn to figure it out.
That's right. And so we see this as a real super strength, and it often has to develop really quickly in blended families. Yeah. One thing we've got to realize is that these things don't all just happen automatically. It's really up to us as the adults in the home to lean into all of these super strengths. Because when we're not learning and then setting that example of acceptance, resilience, and flexibility, then our kids may be the ones who miss out. Let me give you a little bit of an example. When I was growing up, my stepmom was not flexible. She was very controlling most of the time. She was unwilling to adjust in a lot of different areas of life. And in fact, because of some of the challenging dynamics in our blended family, I left home at 16 years old, and I very quickly had to learn how to survive in the world. So, I learned some resilience there, and I learned some acceptance, and that was a good thing. But what I also learned is that I tried to quickly control everything that was going on around me, So as a result, I entered into our marriage figuring that I could just keep on controlling the events and the people around me.
Yep.
But of course, wow, that was quick agreement. But of course, as we got married, that meant Annika was part of the package. And not only was Annika part of the package, but also your relationship with your ex was part of the package. Talk about a whole lot of stuff that I just couldn't control.
You tried, though.
I did. Yep. I did. And over the last 19 years or so, I've really had to learn to become flexible. I've had to be flexible with my time, with my energy and my focus and even my financial resources. I've had to use them differently than what I first anticipated I would. And the more that I've tried to be really rigid and controlling over the years, the more painful it was for everyone. Yeah. When we get really rigid and controlling in these kinds of situations, a lot of times something's going to break. It doesn't work. And usually it's the person who's being rigid, right? Now, I've learned over the years how to respond to life with a lot more flexibility. I've also learned, that part of that whole flexibility thing is my personality type. And some of it is what makes me a good organizer and all of that. But I got to an unhealthy place with it. And so that has extended not just in our family, but my ability to be flexible has gone to other relationships, like extended family members and friends, and in my professional relationships and all of that. And so it's become a strength in our work together as we've had to pivot lots of different ways,
you've
right?
You've gotten really good at that.
Yeah. So flexibility, it's one that I really identify with. And it may be, one of the key super strengths that has developed in me over the past couple of decades, probably the strongest one that has developed in me. I
definitely agree with that.
Yeah. So remember, as adults, you're leading your blended family forward. And you've got a lot of challenges to face, and they're no fun. But as you're doing that, remember that you're building into yourself and you're building into your kids these super strengths of acceptance, resilience, and flexibility.
Yeah. Stay focused there. Now, I got to backtrack for a minute here, because I remember when my daughter was young, I really just wanted to protect her from all the hard stuff, right? From the hurts and the disappointments and all the losses. I didn't want her to have to develop acceptance to this difficult reality that she was in. I didn't want her to have to become resilient or flexible at such a young, tender age. In my mind, I just wanted her to have this carefree, easy childhood without all of this stuff that she had to adapt to. So at the time, I really wasn't grateful about our imperfect situation and all of these challenges of blended family life. I really railed against it all and tried to protect Annika and the other kids from it. But in hindsight now, Annika's in her mid-20s, I can see how everything that she experienced growing up, the tough stuff, and how she had to learn to survive, I can see how all of these things have developed strong character in her. And I'm thankful for that. And in our two mutual kids as well. They've developed these 3 character traits.
Who we also wanted to protect from all this, right?
And, at this point, we're all 5 of us are pretty good at accepting the changes that life throws at us. And, I want to tell you, there's one thing you can count on in life. There will be change, especially in blended family life.
One thing that'll never change is changes keep coming.
And, we're also pretty good at working through tough stuff. We bounce back. We've got some resilience as a team, all 5 of us. And we've become incredibly flexible over the years, especially you, honey. Especially
me.
Yes, which I'm very grateful for. And so these are all things that I'm grateful for. And I wish that I had had this insight back then to fully appreciate those things when our kids were younger.
Yeah, it could have changed a mindset. When you're experiencing challenges.
Yeah, because instead of that, I spent a lot of time focused on the negative.
Yep.
All the imperfections of our family and, my daughter's imperfect childhood that I couldn't protect her from. And I took on a lot of guilt over that, when all the while she was actually gaining some super strengths that other kids in first families never develop or don't develop until way later in life.
Or certainly not in the same way.
Yeah. So here's a great quote I ran across, and I want to leave this with you as you face all the challenges that are going to come along with the holiday season.
And beyond.
We know they're coming. So this is something I want to leave you with. Being happy doesn't mean that everything is perfect. It means that you've decided to look beyond the imperfections.
I really like that.
Look beyond the imperfections. And that's all about keeping your focus on imperfect progress. You are making progress, even though it doesn't seem like it.
Yeah, it's imperfect.
Yeah, and those super strengths are what you've got going for you.
That's right.
Focus on those.
So we're focusing on acceptance, resiliency, and flexibility. Kim and I definitely have not always had a smooth ride. We've shared some of that even just on this episode. We've had some really, really tough seasons, faced some big, big challenges that left us feeling disappointed, sometimes even hopeless. But we've learned some very important lessons along the way. And so regardless of the challenges that your family's facing, just like Kim was just encouraging us, you can choose to focus on those positives and be grateful for the super strengths that are getting developed in your stepfamily. So as you, if you're in the U.S., as you head into Thanksgiving this week, and maybe you've got some extended family members that are coming over, or you're dealing with people that are just challenging, what can you do to remain grateful, focus on gratitude, and remember that you're right in the middle of building acceptance, resilience, and flexibility.
Imperfect progress is still progress.
That's right. Hey, well, we would love for you to leave us a rating and review. That's going to help us continue to access more and more step couples who need support like this. So would you leave an honest rating and review on iTunes for us? We'd really appreciate it. And can you believe it? Next week, it's already going to be December.
I can't believe it. It snuck up on me.
So that means if you're not already, you're probably getting ready to celebrate Christmas. And as much as I love celebrating, one challenge can be keeping a reasonable budget within our celebration. The budgeting process around holiday times can be really difficult.
We've struggled with that, and we've heard from other step couples what a struggle that is.
That's right. It's a big challenge. And blended families have some unique challenges when it comes to managing our money around the holidays.
Sure.
So that's what we're going to dive into next week before we get too far into December, and hopefully give you some great tips that are going to help you get through the holidays. That's right. Okay, that's our episode. That's a wrap.
Until next time.